Deadly Dose, the untold story of a homicide investigator's crusade for truth and justice. Published by the Berkeley Group, June 2008. Investigator Chris Morgan leans back slowly into the crevices of his worn leather recliner, like he's sinking into a hot bath. The dark brown material is stretched and broken from years of abuse. The chair sticks to his large bare arms and surrounds him like an old familiar blanket. Over the years, his wife has begged him to get rid of the ugly old chair. But no other chair fits his ample frame quite like this one. It is here, in his chair, in the darkness of his study, that he tells the story that almost consumed the latter part of his life. For Morgan, there are two kinds of murderers. There is the impersonal murderer who kills for money. Often, the victim dies quickly and suffers little. But then there are killers who revel in watching people die. They get joy and power from seeing their victims suffer. Ann Miller watched her husband, Eric Miller, die 1,000 small deaths over a period of months before his heart finally stopped at 2:50 a.m. on Saturday, December 2, 2000, at Rex Hospital in Raleigh, North Carolina. To die from chronic arsenic poisoning is to be slowly tortured. Morgan has read everything he can find on the subject. He learned how arsenic attacks all of the tissues in your body and severely limits your ability to function. The first symptoms are flu-like: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Early on, the damage can be reversed if the exposure stops. But if it continues, the toxic chemical attacks your nerves, your stomach, your intestines, your skin. You feel excruciating pain and eventually become psychotic. It is as if your body is slowly deteriorating, being eaten away. And one day, one painful day, it finally gives out for good. As many times as he has gone over it in his mind, Morgan can't reconcile why a promising 30-year-old pediatric AIDS researcher had to die this way. Eric Miller was the kind of man no one disliked. Morgan never knew him when he was alive. But after hundreds of interviews with people who did know Eric, Morgan now counts him as a friend. Morgan readjusts his formidable frame and eases a little bit deeper into the comfortable chair. So deep he thinks it might collapse beneath his weight. In the distance, his dog barks. Morgan hears his wife scolding, trying to usher the pet back into the house. He takes another pinch of chewing tobacco. His story will take time to tell. It cascades out of his mouth in long, deliberate, run-on sentences, like a poet searching for the right cadence. Ann Miller was an attractive woman, a well-educated scientist, a mother, an active church member. Not the kind of woman anyone would have suspected of killing her husband. No one except perhaps Chris Morgan. Yet over the 5-year period following Eric Miller's death, Ann Miller left a string of lies, manipulation, hypocrisy, and more death in her path. Despite her prim and proper appearance, Ann Miller was serially unfaithful to her husband. Morgan always felt she had an uncanny power not only to lure men into her web of seduction, but then cast them aside when she no longer needed what they had to offer. For years, Ann Miller remained free and seemingly unflustered by the deaths she left in her wake. During this time, Morgan refused to give up the fight to put her behind bars. As a leader of the Major Crimes Task Force, he was on her heels day and night. From the beginning, he suspected Ann Miller was the killer. He pressured the district attorney to take the case to court. Crusader is not a word to be used lightly, but in this case, it fits. Chris Morgan is a crusader in every sense of the word. This is his story, as told from an old recliner in a small, comfortable ranch house somewhere in rural North Carolina. It's getting dark now as the late winter sun sets in the distance, sending only a small shaft of light across his weathered face. He has traveled many miles to get to this day. He is ready.